This is a bonus module because Microsoft have upgraded Windows 10 to Windows 11, and what this module will do is show you how to upgrade from Windows 10 to Windows 11, which may not be possible in all cases, but if it's a recent computer that you work on, then it should be possible for you to do that. And then we'll have a look at how you can check to see whether you can upgrade or not and how that might work. And then we'll have a look at the differences, in some part anyway, between Windows 10 and Windows 11. And the course is based on Windows 10. The functionality is pretty much the same, but the look and feel may be slightly different. So on your Windows 10 computer, you go to Settings, Windows Update, then this is the screen that you should see. And this is about whether you can upgrade from Windows 10 to Windows 11 or not. And if you want to check that out, then you need to download a piece of software from Microsoft called Get PC Health Check and run that on your system, and that will then tell you whether you can upgrade or not, and if you can't, what the reasons are. And the reasons which will make it impossible are if your hardware is not sufficient or other changes that you are not in a position to make. In that case, then you'll be continuing to use Windows 10, and Windows 10 is going to continue to be supported by Microsoft until 2025. So there's quite a few years of life left in Windows 10, and it's a bit like earlier versions of Windows. They lasted for many years after support finished, and they're still technically possible to be used. So go to Settings, which you can get to from the Start button Settings, select Windows Update, and run the Get PC Health Check. And if you want to then upgrade to Windows 11 because it is possible for your particular system, then the first thing you should do is to do a backup, a full backup of your Windows 10 setup, just in case things go wrong, because you never know. And then you can move on, and you can then run the setup for Windows 11. And the next part of this bonus module is to see some of the differences that you're going to encounter when you look at Windows 11. It's worth pointing out at this stage that when you run an upgrade from Windows 10 to Windows 11, all of your files, your folders, your settings will all be available in Windows 11. There will be some slight changes, but all of your favorites, all of your other files, everything that you've been running on your Windows 10 machine will then be available in a slightly different format, but nonetheless available in Windows 11. So let's have a look module by module at some of the changes that have been made in Windows 11 from what you see in Windows 10. So this is the desktop in my new Windows 11 setup, and there are some immediate differences which you'll notice, and one is that the Start button has disappeared from the bottom left hand. Well, the Start button now is these 4 blue squares, which then fires up a completely different looking Start menu from the one that you're used to. And these have all been brought forward from my Windows 10 setup on the same machine, and these are selected by what Microsoft think are the most appropriate for me. Now that may or may not be true. In fact, it probably isn't true. And this is then the Start menu of the Windows 11, and it actually runs onto 2 screens. And if you have a look at the right hand side of this window, I can then scroll down and get some other apps in the Start menu which have been put there by Microsoft as part of what they think I want in my Start menu. So if I go up to here, then you can see that these are the ones. Now If I want to change any of these, let's say solitaire, I'm not particularly bothered about solitaire. The clicking on it will open it. I'm not particularly keen on that. So if I go back to the start menu, what I can do is I can drag this down into the lower part of the start menu, and it then becomes hidden from the default view, which is the one which is up here, and then it promotes something like TikTok. Now, I don't particularly want TikTok either, because I don't at the moment anyway get involved in TikTok. So if I go back to the bottom part of the menu, then I might find that it's this PC that I want, although there's not a great deal of difference between this PC and Explorer, but it's a bit more useful to me than TikTok at the minute. So I can bring that into the top part of the start menu, and then that becomes part of what I'm seeing. Now, at the bottom of this window, there are the latest files and apps that I've been running, and these are the ones which, again, Microsoft think that I want to see. But going back to the start list, if I go to all apps, which is a button at the top right, and I click on that, then this is a view of what the start menu used to look like. And if I go down and have a look at, let's say, Microsoft Maps, and I right click on that, I can then pin that to the start menu, and then that becomes part of it. And if I go down the list again, and I want, for example, to pin access to my taskbar, which runs along the bottom of the screen, then I can right click that, go to More, and select Pin to Taskbar, and then you'll see that access becomes accessible at the bottom of the screen on the taskbar, which I can then remove or retain to my choice. And the last thing about the start menu is that the shutdown button is at the bottom right of that. If I select on power, I can either sleep the machine, which just saves all of your work to the hard drive, I can shut it down, or I can restart. And this is where, as usual, the messages come if you need to reboot your machine because of Windows update changes that have been made. So the first module of the Windows 10 course is talking about the Google Chrome browser and the way to update it from the browser set as a default in Microsoft. Now, when I was running my Windows 10 machine on this same PC, then I had Google Chrome running as the default browser, and in fact the upgraders retained that, so I don't have to make any changes. But I'll show you in a little while how to actually make Google Chrome your default and select it. So Google Chrome is the one which has got a lot of extra accessibility in it, particularly to those utilities which are run by Google, things like Google Docs, etc., and access to YouTube. The MS Internet Explorer has now pretty much died a death, and now Microsoft are using MS Edge to replace Microsoft Internet Explorer. And Microsoft Edge is really based on the same software engine as Google Chrome. It's part of a whole process called Chromium, which is open source software, and Google started it first using Chrome, and Microsoft are now joined in with that with Microsoft Edge. And I'll show you on Microsoft Edge a little bit more than I did in the actual module 1 of the main course, as it may be your choice that you want to go with Microsoft Edge, and there are plenty of settings and adjustments that you can make to Microsoft Edge, which I didn't cover in the main course. And then there are other browsers called Firefox. There is one called Safari, which is the one which is the default on smartphones. And just to remind you, HTTP and HTTPS is the transport protocol for the language of the internet websites, and the HTTP is the original version, HTTPS is the S for secure version of that. So here's my desktop again, and Microsoft Edge is this curly wave icon which is on the taskbar, and if I select that, then it opens up Microsoft Edge with all sorts of settings. I don't particularly use this often, so this is what Microsoft think that I should be interested in. And what I just want to demonstrate is right up in the top right hand corner there are the 3 ellipsis dots, and if I select that, then these are all the choices that you can make to modify your browser, in particular in settings. So if I select settings for the browser, then I can make any number of different changes to the way that the browser is handled in terms of privacy, appearance and so on. And a lot of this links back to Control Panel, which is under settings, and we'll have a look at that in more detail later on. So that's a quick look at Microsoft Edge, should you choose to use it. Now the next module in the Windows 10 course is all about Explorer files and folders. So we would have a look at this PC, we then have a look at My Documents or Documents, where downloads go, we'll have a look at music, videos, pictures, we'll have a look at the desktop, which is like a separate folder all on its own, and then we'll have a look at a way of controlling files and folders, how to find stuff using the search option, moving stuff, copy, cut and paste, deleting stuff and finding it again in Recycle Bin, and the download folder where it all goes unless you select a different one. So this is a view of my C drive on my previous Windows 10, now Windows 11 machine, and everything has made the trip across from Windows 10 to Windows 11. The thing that's changed is the menu bar, and you can see along the top that quite a bit of it is greyed out. There is a way of creating a new folder in there, but otherwise to get things to be live, then I have to select, I can select this folder, but if I want to do that in a particular file, then I have to select it. The scissors mean that I can cut that and move that file to somewhere else. The 2 sheets of paper are to copy it, and I can then copy this particular file to another location. Because I haven't selected either cut or copy, then this paste option is greyed out. I can rename this file, or I can delete it, and then this whole sort option is available to organize the files in this particular folder. And then under view, I've got all the view selection there to change things, and all of that is pretty much the same as in Windows 10. I can, because it's an image, set it as a background to my desktop. I can rotate it left, rotate it right, and under the 3 dots I can then burn it to a disk. I can compress it to a zip file, copy the path, and the options which are reasonably familiar to anybody on Windows 10. The next module in the Windows 10 course is about Skype messaging, and Skype is still available on Windows 11, but it's really being flagged now as a one-to-one messaging system between you and just one other. And Microsoft have now added in to Windows 11 Microsoft Teams on a method which does not require you to be part of a full-blown Windows domain, which is the commercial organization of Windows machines. So Microsoft Teams is now available in Windows 11. And the Module 5 about setting up a Gmail email account is pretty much the same and doesn't affect the way that you handle Windows 11. Then utilities are really all about the operating system, and Microsoft 10 is in settings, and you used to get to settings off the start menu, and you still do, and we'll have a look at that, and we'll have a look at a couple of changes that you can make through settings, or how you can look at settings in order to find some of the configuration of your particular system. So to get to settings, it's back to the start menu, the 4 blue squares. Click on start, and in the start menu we have settings, and all of the settings in the machine are accessible through this particular window. And one of the things which we were going to look at is under apps. You can then change the default apps, and this is where the browser option is set, and you'll be constantly reminded by Microsoft to upgrade or change your default browser to Microsoft Edge. And you'll see that Google Chrome is set in here, and that is the basic, but there are a number of options for Microsoft Edge for other protocols like FTP. While HTTP, which is a main web browser, is used by Google Chrome, and so is HTTPS Google Chrome. And these are the ones, if you want to change that for any reason, then you can hit the change button and you can make Microsoft Edge the default browser. So it's hidden a little bit deep, but nonetheless that's where it is. And if we have a look at network and internet, then the network card that you're using is in here, and you can have a look at the settings. And so if you need to know what the IP address is of your particular system, then on mine it's 192.168.192.2, and that is one way of being able to find out what your network settings are for your particular machine. So those are the major differences between Windows 10 and Windows 11. It's mainly cosmetic, and things are in a slightly different place. But if you have a look down the list of modules for the main Windows 10 course, then most of these don't involve Windows 11 in the way that Explorer and setting up the browser and the start menu will be affected. They're more to do with the way that you can use the machine to access the internet and manage the system effectively to your own settings. So good luck with the rest of the course, and I hope you found this short module on an upgrade to Windows 11 useful.